What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Cleveland Pulse YouTube channel. I am your host, Justin Harold, and with me, as always, my co-host, Jeff Santa. Today, we are coming with you guys with a preview for the Browns versus Houston Texans game this weekend. Lots of news leading up to this game. It's Friday, the 17th of September, and like I said, we have a lot of breaking news and kind of just updates from the injury report for your Brownies. So with that all being said, and, Jeff and I talking through the week, I think this is going to be a great conversation. So with that being said, Jeff, how you doing, my guy?
I'm doing good. If you're not familiar with us, or if you're familiar with us, our best conversations come during the Brown season. It's just flat out, especially on Fridays. Friday's the best day of the week. And we're both glad that we made it to another Friday. And we're both glad that there's another football game on Sunday. A lot of breaking news between yesterday and today. There's one situation on the offensive side, on the offensive line, the left side of the offensive line, that's going to have to be monitored over the next 48 hours. We're not going to have complete information for you guys here, but this is going to be the bulk of the game for the most part.
Absolutely. And so let's get into that injury report. So like Jeff started off with, the left side of the offensive line kind of struggling with injuries right now. So if you watch the Browns game Sunday, you know that Jedrick Wills went out early on in that game and did not come back and has been questionable ever since to return. That has continued to be the keynote. However, his replacement, Chris Hubbard, who also apparently got injured in that game but never came out, has been on the injury report and is now listed as out for this week's game, leaving rookie James Hudson III out of Cincinnati to be the starter at left tackle if Jedrick Wills cannot go. Jeff, obviously you and I have talked about this over text messages and everything, but what are your just overall thoughts on that situation and what might play out?
It's not going to be the end of the world. I think that our offensive line coaching, especially in Bill Callahan, is good enough to get the rookie ready. And it's not a great defense as far as I'm concerned. I honestly don't know any of their pass rushers. I really don't know a whole lot of people on the Texans roster besides ex-Brownies. So it's not going to be the end of the world. I think they had high hopes, and I think that they, think highly of this rookie James Hudson out of Cincinnati. So it's definitely going to be interesting. It's going to be something to watch on Baker's blind side of the offensive line, people coming off Baker's left edge, but it shouldn't really be the end of the world. We get to see some of the rookies in this class, in this draft class, step up for another week.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about rookies, we're just going to stay on the offensive side for right now. Anthony Schwartz also listed as questionable for this weekend, and JC Tretter, who is, more often than not listed as a questionable player whenever he's on there, will probably end up playing through his injury and everything. So nothing to worry about there. But flipping that over to the defensive side, we have a big time injury reserve player in Anthony Walker going out this week with a hamstring injury, which, we didn't really get a huge detailed, what happened there. It seems like he must have pulled it to a great extent because he's been placed on IR, which means he will be eligible to return for the Chargers game, which is week 5. So they're looking to put Malcolm Smith as the starting middle linebacker there. And then we have Troy Hill, who is also injured. Jeff, what is the thought on the defensive side early with that linebacker group and Anthony Walker being out?
I'm definitely nervous, honestly. I think I don't know if this is the same. Didn't he aggravate a hamstring in training camp? I don't know if this is the same one or if this is the other one, but he wasn't 100% in training camp.
You're right about that.
But yeah, IR for a hamstring does seem a little bit weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's just weird that we didn't get like a really big there was a play that in camp and everything, or in practice, that he was like, oh, you had to come out and go on the sideline or whatever. But yeah, it's huge news. Obviously, there were rumors that Reuben Foster was coming in for a workout. Apparently, the workout has ended, and he has not been signed to the practice squad yet, or today. So They're elevating Elijah Lee to the active roster, and him and Malcolm Smith are the most likely to start, according to Kevin Stefanski, at middle linebacker this weekend. The linebacking group has been our weakest area. Obviously, we watched Travis Kelce light them up in the middle of the field last week. And, it's just a group that needs to step up in general. Obviously, they had a hard task with that Kansas City offense. However, they are moving on to a Texans offense that is slightly, they're hard to read. Obviously, a team that we don't have very highly rated on our end, but still was able to put up 37 points last week. We'll see what happens there. But that being said, obviously, someone that Jeff has been super high on will now be getting the green dot, which is John Johnson III, who will probably be calling the defensive plays for us. Jeff, what are your thoughts on the handing over of the green dot to John Johnson?
I just think you could attribute that to Andrew Berry just being an absolute genius and somehow getting 2 defensive players in free agency this offseason who were the play callers for their respective former teams. So I'm sure there was probably competition for who was going to receive the play calling nod, especially in training camp in the preseason. So they probably both did it. And hopefully it'll be an easy transition. I don't really know how much that factors into the defensive scheme. I'm assuming Joe Woods probably has more input than John Johnson, especially halftime adjustments, etc. I think it'll go smoothly. I think that I totally agree with you. The linebackers have to step up. And this isn't we're not playing a quarterback who's going to drop back and stand there. Tyrod Taylor is, he could move around in the pocket and he can make plays happen with his legs. And I just don't think they tackle very well either. I just don't think our linebackers tackle well at all. So you can't cover, you can't tackle, and you can't stop a running quarterback, at least in week 1. Obviously a tall task, but we saw it a lot last year with some of these same guys, Mac Wilson, Malcolm Smith, Taki.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that kind of leads into the next talking point. And this will start getting us more into the preview aspect of this episode. But Joe Woods might actually have an opportunity to experiment this week with, that for rumored 5-man DB set, the dime heavy set that he likes. And so with that being said, we get Ronnie Harrison back, who did not get a suspension for his outburst last week. And finally, we get the emergence of Grant Delpit for the first time ever being an active player on this team coming back. So that'll be something interesting to watch. And also, like I said earlier, Troy Hill listed as questionable for this game, which means Greedy Williams and Greg Newsome could both be getting a lot more time than they did last week. So a lot of interesting things with the, potential packages that we'll see. What are your expectations for the sets that we'll be in and, the playing time of which players get?
I think they're probably going to bring Delpit on slowly just because of John Johnson and Ronnie Harrison, of course. But I did not really even know Troy Hill was banged up. I'm assuming he's going to go. So that could affect the playing time of Grant Delpit, I guess. For me, here was my thing. And looking at last week, comparing against the Chiefs to the Texans is difficult. Probably one of the hardest drop-offs potentially in competition on our schedule all year, especially back-to-back early in the year. I didn't see enough trying to disguise how we were set up on the defensive side of the ball. I think we were tipping our hand right at the line of scrimmage. I don't see a lot of disguised blitzes that I feel like I need to see. Our pressure, logically comes from the outside, Miles and Clowney, but these linebackers, like I said, they don't cover very well. I don't know where the blitzing packages are. I don't know why we're not randomly sending people extra on the line of scrimmage, stacking the box. Now, I do know that Brandon Cooks is a decent deep ball threat, decent. We know Tyrod Taylor can throw a little bit. And Phillip Lindsay out of the backfield, he's not terrible. I mean, their offensive composition isn't that bad.
It's a weird one.
It's weird. It's bad compared to Kansas City, but they're still NFL football players. I just don't see why I just hope the defensive scheme has to be totally different as far as disguising what we're doing in this week of football.
Absolutely. And with that being said, we'll start getting more into the preview of this. And so I just liked what you got started there with the composition of the Texans offense. Let me just list this roster off like offensively, just like some of the top names for you. Tyrod Taylor, obviously a former Browns player, Mark Ingram, a former Baltimore player, Philip Lindsay, a former Denver player. All these guys used to be starters. David Johnson, they used to be really good fantasy players for the most part at the running back and quarterback position. Then you got the receivers, Brandon Cooks, Pharaoh Brown, another Brownie, Danny Amendola. This team is just so weird. Like it kind of sounds like if you go back 2 or 3 years, like almost like a weird offensive super team, kind of like Tyrod Taylor obviously isn't,
Right.
booming, or Brandon Cooks isn't really booming, but like they were good enough players that they garnered some respect, and now it's just like a misfits group, and it's really, really weird. However, this group of misfits that I think everyone was kind of expecting the Jaguars to beat and have their one and only win this season ended up handing the Jaguars their first loss, and they picked up a 37-21 win. I don't know if you watched that game, Jeff. I watched the highlights just for the preview of all this and everything. But what are your thoughts on the Texans offense specifically?
I think they're probably a lot of people are going to overlook them, which could work in their favor. Now, if they score 30 points again this week against us, which would be terrible, not impossible, but I don't think that would be a win for our defense if we give up 30 points to the Texans. But then probably people will be looking their way. I think Tyrod Taylor has always at least been close to serviceable. I think he's like a Teddy Bridgewater, honestly. Teddy Bridgewater, obviously a bigger name out of college, I believe. But, this is his team for the most part. Deshaun Watson sitting on the sideline. So you have to tip your cap at a minimum. It was the Jaguars, but they went in there and they did beat, they have a win. So they're like I sent you on Twitter that Kevin Stefanski was putting the Texans 1-0, Browns 0-1 around the facility all week long, which is true. I mean, they have more wins than us going into week 2 of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, and like you've always said, they're an NFL football team, so they're no joke, they're no pushover. But again, we do have in our long running predictions that this is going to be a blowout game for sorts for the Browns. But Jeff, the one thing that I've always loved about doing these episodes and everything is just getting to talk to you throughout the week before we ever have this preview or whatever video it may be. And this week, yesterday, you send me 4 little like not keys, or like I think you can clarify, these might be keys or they just might be hopes of what you want. So I'm just going to list them off. 40 points minimum, Baker 30 plus pass attempts, sack Tyrod, and get Chubb some rest. So
I can't even text either. I'm so excited. Well, first of all, I'm crazy, and then I just type the wrong words.
I love it though. I love it. I understood what you were getting at, but I love it. And so, I think we both have us scoring like 40 some points in our predictions. I think I have like 41 or whatever. But yeah, I was laughing at like the Baker for 30 plus attempts, because that's just something I ask for on a weekly basis. That's just me like, hey, can you just let him throw the ball a lot? Like, can I see him throw the ball 40 plus times, or 40 times, maybe not 40 plus times, but up in the 30s and right around that 40 number. But getting Nick Chubb some rest, and then Tyrod Taylor. You were a little weird with the whole Tyrod Taylor thing this week. You were like a little revenge game for him, so we got to sack him.
He's not bad though. Like, he's not like, if he's just been unlucky with injuries. Here's the thing. All right, so let's go to the ebook. The ebook. I have us winning 42-21, and you have us winning 38-14. So pretty
up to 41.
Pretty comparable. But this is what I don't understand. You see it last week. You see how accurate Baker Mayfield was last week. You can't take the accuracy away from him, and you can't take the majority of his throws down the field being at least good, some great, one or two bad, which the bad ones do stand out, especially to me, because I'm always going to harp on them for the bad ones. And when you're watching something on TV, you don't really understand. Like, this is my problem as a fan. I see a pass that's an absolute dime, and it's like you don't even know how hard that is in real life. It doesn't look that difficult on TV because David Njoku's just going up and making a hell of a play, and it's a great pass. It's a rifle. And then I see him throw one short, and I'm like, okay, now then I start freaking out. You know me, I start freaking out. Here's the thing. This is their defensive makeup per PFF numbers. Defensive line in the 40s on average. Our offensive line, that's good that we have some injuries on the offensive line because their defensive line, bunch of nobodies, literally bunch of nobodies. Linebackers, 54 average. Zach Cunningham, Shaq Lawson, decent. Nothing to write home about. Probably better than our linebackers, but that's
Can't forget Christian Kirksey.
Oh yeah, 48.2 PFF defensive grade.
Hey man, he had an interception last weekend.
Did he? Good for him.
Yeah, he did.
I like Kirksey. He's nice.
I miss him.
Yeah, he's a homer. I like him.
Yeah.
Safeties 57. So their highest defensive position outside of the cornerbacks is 57. Their cornerbacks are actually decent. A couple of them. Terrence Mitchell, who, believe it or not, his PFF grade is close to 70, and Bradley Roby's over 70. So here's the thing, which is funny because I have Kareem Hunt as the player to watch for this game. Just do the opposite of what we did last year. A team like the Texans last year, think Philadelphia Eagles, think Washington football team, think, anybody from the NFC East, think the Giants. We established the run game. Why? Let's just let Baker throw the ball 20 to 25 times in the first half, and let's see if he has 4 or 5 touchdowns. I literally don't care. If we could keep it close, if he throws 25 times and he has 3 picks in the first half, hopefully it's only a 10-point game at worst. You could come back from a 10-point deficit at home in the second
against
half.
The Texans.
Yeah, against the Texans. Who cares? Open it up. Call up friggin' Mike McCarthy and be like, okay, tell me how you passed the ball 30 times in the first half, and just do that. Let's see if we could legitimately have Baker at like 4 or 5 touchdowns in the first half, because people are arguing this, that, and the other thing. Oh, if we didn't have the best 2-headed monster running back last week, Baker could have had 3 or 4 touchdowns. Could he have, though? Could he? He had no touchdowns last week, Justin.
Oh my God. My
franchise guys don't have
zero
touchdowns. They don't. He had 0 touchdowns a couple times last year. Rain, whatever, this, that, and the other thing. Let him open it up. Let's go scripted like we did last week. Have the best first 2 drives you've ever seen Kevin Stefanski call. Get Schwartz involved. Get Demetric Felton involved. Get Donovan Peoples-Jones involved. I want like 6 or 7 receptions for like 4 or 5 guys. Flex Kareem Hunt out to the side and tell Nick Chubb to go sit on the bench. Go 5 wide. Go your standard 5 wide and sit Nick Chubb for the first half.
Sheesh. Yeah, man, that's a lot to ask for.
You're telling me you would like that, though?
I would love that.
Exactly.
I would love that. I would love for Baker to have, the amount of passes he had all week or all game last week in the first half. By the end of the first half, that'd be flipping awesome. Oh my God, that was long and that was awesome. Offensively for me, I want us to put up 40 points. I don't know why I have us at 38. I wanted to put 41. I want Baker, like you said, to throw a ton, and I like that. I like his efficiency, and I really liked his efficiency with some of his deep balls last week. It'll be interesting to see how they game plan it, because you come off of the game with the Chiefs and everything, and you're like, all right, the run game didn't get really established, even though it was in the first half, and then in the second half we have things happen and we kind of shy away from it. This is just a typical Kevin Stefanski game where I think it just comes so easily to the run game. that, like, why would you ever, like, why? I guess the opposite end of, like, hey, like, Nick Chubb fumbling is way better than Baker Mayfield throwing an interception. And that's like that's how I think Kevin Stefanski sometimes thinks. I think he's like, all right, I rather like continue to run the ball than, try to do something crazy or just do like an absurd amount of throws that opens the opportunity for, that interception or whatever. Cause then, people get on Baker and they go all ranty and everything. And so, but I'm on the same page with you. I would love to see Baker throw 30 plus times this game, hopefully 30 times in the first half. That'd be awesome. But with that all being said, obviously no Odell Beckham Jr., Anthony Schwartz being listed as questionable. So you don't have any of your, typical burners. Obviously Donovan Peoples-Jones, we've seen him put on the speed a little bit sometimes. So maybe he'll get a little bit more involved. But yeah, I mean, I'm here for a great offensive show. Obviously, this game being at home, gonna be at the game, gonna be with a bunch of Rockin' fans. Hopefully, Kevin Stefanski making a statement saying, "Hey, get out of the Muni lot early, get into your seats,
That was crazy,
and get the stadium rocking for all 60 minutes." So, Jeff, I can't really follow up what you were going on with, so I'm good. I'm done. You got anything else before we close this one up?
I know what you're saying with you'd rather have Chubb fumble than Baker throw a pick, because I do think Stefanski thinks like that. I think that he wants to keep Baker good confidence, but again, when we play good teams and Baker has an early interception, usually from what I've seen, unless I'm missing a game, it kind of sputters out from control from there, usually because their defense is either good or their offense is good. So if he makes a bonehead mistake early, he can, there's a chance he can make a mistake later, or their offense is just going to turn it into points. But when we play teams that are bad, his confidence means less at the beginning. You saw it last year in the Bengals game. He has the best second half ever. Let's test his confidence early. Here's the thing. It's week 2. It's September. It's going to be 80 plus degrees at First Energy Stadium. We're going to have games in the winter when it's cold and freezing where we can hand the ball off 30 times. We can hand the ball off 30 times this week. And I think everybody would bet $100 if we handed the ball 25 to 30 times. And even if we kept the turnover battle close, that we would win the game. Probably, like a good chance, like a very high probability. But this is the underrated part where I'm totally switched my stance. I was spiteful of the NFL last week. Why are they giving us Kansas City off rip? We just played them. I know that they ended our season last year. It's a good narrative. Why couldn't we play them at home? We played them there last year.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, which people aren't going to like this. You get an extra game this year. So you have a little bit room for error, I tend to think. Could be wrong. You could have one more game to mess up, I guess. Technically, you could look at it either way. 2, you just lost to the favorites in the AFC. You're all things considered, no terrible injuries. You're probably not going to be the home team in the playoffs all the way through, unless if the wheels fall off over there, Mahomes gets hurt. They're probably going to be the 1 seed. So now who cares if you drop another game? Who cares if you drop 4 or 5 games? If you don't win the division, that's one thing. You would love to win the division. Now it's on the division, basically. After 1 week, we switched our focus to, we're probably not going to have home field advantage throughout the whole playoffs, to now let's have home field advantage winning the division, and then we could do what we want from there. So I think the loss was tough to Kansas City, but it allows us to be riskier. It allows us to have more chances to do things that are a little bit funky on both sides of the ball. Which one of them could be have Baker throw 30, 35 times, give the running backs lesser of a role.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I love everything that you just said. Like I said, Jeff, great stuff from you today. You were fired up,
dude. Let's go.
It would seem like you're going to the home game and I'm not.
No, you're saving it. You got to be 60 minutes of big effort for Kevin.
Absolutely. Gotta answer Kevin's call. So that being said, everyone, thank you very much for watching. If you aren't already, please subscribe. Please make sure you turn on that notification bell. Leave a like, leave a comment. What are your guys' thoughts going into this game? And we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.